So, welcome to the March episode of ISSA Canada's Coffee Talk Forum. Today, we will be taking an in-depth look at the social media platform used by business professionals across the world, LinkedIn. Drawing on his personal experiences and insights, I am so pleased to introduce our special guest today, Tom Fournier of Shades Mills Group. Tom founded Shades Mills Group in 2018 and is now a highly recognized thought leader on sales strategies and sales models. Prior to founding his company, Tom led Kimberly-Clark's business-to-business sales team in Canada, where he was known for his ability of building outstanding customer relationships, creating exceptional sales teams, and consistently driving profitable sales growth. Based on his extensive experiences, Tom will share his thoughts and insights on how you can build a personal brand on LinkedIn. He will show you what levels and types of participation are available, provide tips for networking, prospecting, researching, and meeting preparation, and perhaps most importantly, help you maximize your effectiveness on LinkedIn. So with that said, please welcome Tom Fournier.
Thanks, Tanya. I appreciate that. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Because I'd like to drive this off of some slides and then I can illustrate that with some examples. That's a good way to share this. So I'll start out with a caution, and that is I am not associated with LinkedIn. I'm not a LinkedIn trainer. This is just sort of aha moments I've had as I've used it, drawing upon my own personal experiences, what has worked, what hasn't worked. And I'm going to dive in because I probably have way too many slides, but I think some of these will go quickly. And if I'm too fast, then I do know Tanya started recording this session and the playback will be available to you. So if there's something you want to capture, look at, then you can go back and see it once the video is available. So I think the first thing is to talk about, and I think there's still a lot of people that look at LinkedIn as a job-seeking forum or looking for job candidates. So I think in a business context, it's best not to think about LinkedIn as a resume. Instead, my preference is, for a lot of us, it's probably the best environment for networking on a business context and establishing yourself as a subject matter expert, demonstrating your credentials and talk about what it is you have to offer. And then another caution is don't use LinkedIn as Facebook. I see people will post stuff on occasion and they get slapped around in a big hurry from other LinkedIn participants. I think people don't want a Facebook experience on LinkedIn. It's a place for professional business interactions. And so as you're looking to LinkedIn and thinking about how you're going to use it, I think it's very appropriate that you set some goals. If you work for an enterprise, then you got to make sure your use and your goals are in line with corporate guidelines. But here's some suggestions. It's a great place for personal brand building. So your name, your expertise, so that is your own personal brand, and your participation and your interactions on LinkedIn is a great way to define that. Also, it's a great way to establish yourself as a subject matter expert. If you have expertise, whether it is in a specific area of cleaning or whether it is in a range of products, LinkedIn's a forum where you can constantly demonstrate your knowledge of that and to constantly validate it. I mentioned networking. It's a great way to meet people, to identify prospects and connections. And then that leads to the next one where it's how you build your business. So I'm going to start kind of a step back first and then talk about some components of LinkedIn. So, I start out my day here on the home, or what I call news feed. And then that's driven by, the posts and activity by your connections, but also businesses, individuals you might follow, hashtags that you follow. And I'll touch on that in a little bit and then also groups that you might be a member of. So, that is what drives your news feed. And then if you find that something in your news feed is creating either too much of something or content that you don't like. Now, I'm not picking on Rob. I really like Rob, but you notice about the fourth item down, you can unfollow someone, right? So you stay connected, but you don't see their posts in your feed. So it's a good way to kind of lessen some of the noise. All right, when you look at your own profile, there's some things to be conscious of. Have a professional image. Your LinkedIn profile, it is like your business card, right? And you want it to be professional. At the very top of the page, there's a banner. I find a lot of people don't utilize that. It's blank space, goes to a LinkedIn default, and that's like paying for advertising that you never use, so just leaving it to the leaser's image. So, try to utilize that banner. You can put images, you can create a graphic, load it in there. And then the other thing is to make sure that you have an impactful description, because if someone's doing a search, then that's what they kind of see, is that quick little blurb, or call it an elevator speech, something that describes you. And then contact information. This is important to make sure this is well populated. A lot of times when I go look up someone's contact information, for example, on email, I might see a Gmail account or Hotmail or something like that. And to me, that kind of suggests they're treating LinkedIn as a job-seeking platform. So if you're using it to promote your business, to grow your business, to make connections, then you do want to make sure you have business-related content here. To me, this is akin to, like, if you have a business card and you're giving it to someone, would you pass out that business card if you didn't have a phone number or your email address on? I'd say don't be afraid. I know as an entrepreneur driving my own business, believe me, I'm not getting that many emails or unsolicited phone calls. So, it really isn't too much that happens that way. And then you can always change that if you find it's too much or overwhelming. So, come on. There we go. And then as you look down at your profile, then you'll see this part does look a little bit like a resume. But then, to me, this is where you establish your credentials. It's a place to talk about your current and past work experience and why you should be considered an expert or a useful resource in a field. Also on your profile, you'll see a section called resources. So if you go into there, click on my network, and then you'll see some interesting data and areas you can explore about yourself. And then one area, we'll come back to this a couple of times, is hashtags. So for me, there's 7 hashtags I follow. You can look at that and see what some of them are: ISSA, property management, cleaning industry, sales management. So these are kind of areas that you're interested in. You can follow a hashtag and then get news related to that hashtag on your feed. But then it's also important to think about hashtags as your industry or your community that you're part of. And as you're posting content, then make sure you're using the relevant hashtags, because that connects you with other people. So if I look at property management there's like 66,000 people following that hashtag. So it's a great way to reach people or an audience outside of your immediate connections. So how do you search for hashtags? There's one where property management, explored that. And sorry, all the little notifications are distracting of people trying to come in. So you can follow that. And then also you can, as you search for a hashtag, then you can see content related to that. So let's try, I start entering in the search window. I was going for hand care. Let's see what happens. You click on hand care. Oh, 10 followers. Well, that's not that exciting. I'm not sure I'll follow that, but oh, there's a post here. Someone had also used hashtag hand care, but he also referenced hashtag hand hygiene. So what if I click on hand hygiene? What does that reveal? All right, that has 500 followers. So that's more interesting, and maybe I'll follow that one. So you try some different ones. So janitorial products, well, not that many results, but hey, here's an individual, the second one down, Stanley. He's a second degree connection. That means he's not connected with me, but he's connected to people that are my connections. So that means he is somewhat related. And then, okay, he's in Waterloo. I'm in Cambridge. That's in my area. So that might be a potential prospect. So maybe someone you want to reach out and connect to. But then at the bottom, then I can see, oh, there's a group around janitorial products. So, 38 members. I'm not sure how exciting that is. Let's try, I click on that, and then I'm going to see that it asked me to join. I don't know that I want to request membership in something like that. Well, let's try another search. What if I go cleaning? Then there's results in groups in different areas. Let's explore groups. And then top of the list, I see ISSA with 37,000 members. Then that may be a good group to be part of. And then you find a number of interesting ones there. So, use search to explore terms, to explore hashtags. There are different ways, to gain insights, and then also to get exposure to potential prospects or connections, people you might want to reach out to. And then something else that's, to me, interesting. I don't know enough people do it, but look at a company name, in this instance, Diversey, and you can follow a company, and then you can get news and updates from, the company or Diversey on your news feed. So that, that helps make sure you're aware of what's going on in the industry. So you can be kept apprised of news. You can explore, some of them will show how many employees are part of their company or related to them. You can look at their employee listings and learn about reporting structures and find other possible connections. You can follow their website and then look for news items, product information, various things that might be of interest to you. So let's look a little bit more at using LinkedIn as a selling tool. And then probably one of the more powerful aspects of this is to use the search function. So I'll use Mike Nosko as an example. So, I start typing in Mike Nosko. Here is some options, and there is a surprising number of Mike Noskos in the world. In this instance, it's pretty easy to see, Executive Director, ISSA Canada, that's the one I want to target. But, if nothing was obvious, then another way to approach this would be to do a search for ISSA, and then you see ISSA Canada, click on that, and then you can see that there are 7 employees that work for ISSA Canada. Oh, first off, wow, I'm not following ISSA Canada. Fix that. I'll click on the follow, and then go to the employees. Oh, and there's Mike Nosko there. That's another way to find Mike. And you can do that with different people you're trying to hunt down, different companies. You can look at the employees and see if there's people you want to be connected with there. Something to point out, I'll use Tanya as an example. If you're not connected with someone, then you can't message with them. That is, if you're on the standard LinkedIn, you haven't paid for a premium profile. So, but there's ways to work around that. So once someone does accept your connection request, you can message them. And then as you're looking to figure out how you want to connect with someone, then I also want to point out, you can increase the likelihood of connecting, or it's sort of a backdoor way of messaging someone, because before you send a connection request, you're given an option that you can customize the invitation and include a message. So that's a good way to say, hey, I think we should connect. I am doing this. I think it'd be a benefit to you, or we know each other through a certain individual or an association. I think the more you can personalize a connection request, then the better the chance is someone might accept that connection request. And I think it's a good way to point out that it's really coming from you. As we wrap up the presentation, I'll talk a little bit about automations that are out there and companies trying to sell a way to get more connections and generate sales leads for you. Another way to approach a connection, if you think they'd be good, they're a high opportunity, but you want to warm them up a bit before you fire off a connection request that might get ignored or refused. I'll use the mayor of Cambridge in this instance. I don't know that she knows who I am or would have any interest in connecting with me, but I want to point out this more button. So if you click on more, then you will see more options, including follow. I'm surprised LinkedIn doesn't make this more prevalent. So you can follow an individual, and then that way, it's warming them up. So if Catherine McGarry posts something on LinkedIn, I can like her post, and then she will see, oh, this guy named Tom Fournier is liking my content. Or you can comment on their post. It's ways to build some familiarity and warm up a contact before you send off a connection request. So, that's one thought there. And then the other thing to do as you're prospecting is to actually look at their profile. Like, your activity on LinkedIn shouldn't be any big secret. Like, if you look at a potential contact's profile, you're showing them you're interested in them. Like this showed up on my feed the one day, and it looked like, someone had minimized their identity. Other people were viewing in private mode. And I really don't see the point in that. Like, why do you have to be, operating in a stealth mode? If I see someone looking at my profile, then sometimes I go and look at their profile. I think, oh, who's this person? Why are they interested in me? And is there anything of interest for me there? So you can go into your settings and you can define how it is you are participating on LinkedIn, and especially when you're viewing profiles. So I choose to have my name and picture visible. If I'm looking at someone's profile, I want them to know that. Or you can kind of go semi-private. So you talk about a little bit about your role in the industry, or you can go full private mode. So, like I said, you can be warming up a contact, but also showing interest in them. So, here's people that did let me know they were looking at my profile, and then one person that hadn't. And then, it's back in my corporate days when I was interviewing candidates, I would view it as a positive if they looked at my profile before coming in for an interview. And I'm going to suggest if you're having a meeting with someone or doing a sales call, then isn't that part of your research and preparation for the call, is to actually understand everything you can about the company and the individual that you're going to meet with? So it's a very important signal to let them know that you are interested in and you are going to deliver value based on your learnings and understanding about that company. All right, and then as you look at someone's profile, then I'd say you can go into their activity and then see what it is they post, what content they interact with, what groups they participate in, hashtags they follow, what they like. So those are all valuable insights about someone that you're going to potentially want to connect with or do business with. And then if someone accepts your connection request, then I would suggest just slow down a bit. It's not whack-a-mole. I don't know how many times I've accepted a connection request and it feels like I barely finished pressing that accept button, and right away I'm getting an email with them wanting to offer me something or wanting to interact with me. As you can have a little bit of discretion there, and don't jump on them too quick. Build a relationship. So it's kind of like maybe a bad analogy. Maybe buy a coffee, have a date or two first before you want to get into a marriage. So it's just, a connection doesn't mean that you have to do something right away.
That's right. And
the other thing with LinkedIn is it's not a one-way street. I see a lot of people, their level of participation is, well, I'm going to post my content, I'm going to do my promotion, but I'm not going to interact with anyone else's content, because, really, if you give, then you will get. It's like I said earlier, it's networking. It's a community. Like, you have to be a participant in that and helping and supporting other people, and then you will get so much more out of your own activity on LinkedIn. Because there's a concept, that I kind of tabled or labeled amplification. If I post something, then I know the 1,000+ people on my network might see it, of all the stuff that shows up in their news feed. But if a couple people like my content, then the way the logarithms work, then there's more chance that more people will see my content. But then also there's a multiplier, so my 1,000 contacts maybe will see it, but if Susan likes it, then maybe the 1,500 people in her network, then they will also potentially see it. And then if Kevin likes it, then with him. So if like 10 people like my post, then all of a sudden my reach might be 30,000 people rather than the 1,000 I'm limited to. But once again, like I said, it's not a one-way street. If you want people to interact with your content to help amplify it, then you should be doing the same for them too. So it's reciprocal. A little tongue-in-cheek, I'm going to talk about posts here. What content you put up, and the caution is LinkedIn, like, to me, it's a noisy place. It's really hard for your content to stand out. So I'm going to talk about, in my experience, what has worked and what doesn't work as well. I won't say it doesn't work at all, but it's just not quite as effective. And then remember hashtags. So as you're posting something and it connects with specific groups or areas, then a hashtag will also help your post reach more people. So first off, LinkedIn, you want to have a regular cadence. I find if I'm not posting stuff, I'm not participating, then I'm not getting very many profile views. I'm not getting a whole lot of action or interaction. So I think it's good to have make a regular habit of looking in LinkedIn, posting content, interacting with other people's content, and then you'll find it's a far more effective presence there. Something I found, use an example, kind of my own corporate content. I see a lot of people are posting stuff their marketing group has created. It might be product spec sheets, it might be an ad and different content like that. All very nice, all very professional, but I find a lot of it gets very little interaction. Like, if you look at their post and the views, then there isn't a lot that way. You can help reach more people or have more people pause and want to have a look if you curate that is, add some of your own words or thoughts. There's an example in this post. Here's another one where I saw an article that might be of interest. And so, I demonstrated, I did read the article and talked about some of my key takeaways that I saw in the article, but still, that was 260 views. So, which wasn't a whole lot, and that doesn't even mean people that have interacted with it. They just maybe paused over it or happened to see it in their news feed. What I found with LinkedIn, what people want to interact with is you. Like, to me, it's amazing if there is personalization, if it is you that you are sharing. That's what stands out in all that noise in the news feed. So here's an example. I was highlighting a blog post I had put on my website, but I supported that with some images of me. And then you see there over 1,000 views. I find you got to be authentic. You want to be willing to share yourself. So do use personal photos. Short videos are incredible. And if I look at my participation, it's probably something I should do a lot more of. But I don't know. There's something about seeing yourself and hearing your own voice that you don't like. But it's very effective. Like, I remember going to the ISSA show in Vegas in, was it 2019? I had posted a video on my LinkedIn feed, and I couldn't believe how many people stopped me and said they'd seen the video. People want to see you, and they want to feel like they've interacted with you. They'd much rather interact with you than corporate generated content. And then it's really hard to figure out when or if it will happen, but here's something I posted on a Friday afternoon. I was just winding down the week. I'd seen this image from my hometown on a Facebook memories page. And then I talked about, growing up with the sign and how we used to climb into the Kleenex box on the sign and stuff like that. So maybe it was nostalgia, maybe it was connecting with people, but like 38,000 views. It was kind of blew my mind going viral like that on something I wasn't even sure what was worth posting. So, but you're not going to have that reach without trying stuff, and I think that's the big thing with LinkedIn is, like I said, a regular cadence, personalize, and get your own stuff out there. Here's a post I did. I created the graphic, but included a picture of myself, and then all of a sudden, really strong views, over 2,000 of this post. And then I don't know if people know this, where you see views, you can click on that, and then you get more insight about who was looking at that particular post. So if I expand out that way, then I can see what companies people worked at that looked at that, what was their roles, and then what was their geography. So if you want to see if your content is reaching the right audience, like the right job level, the right geography, then it's a good way to look for insights, and it's interesting to see that information. And then another way, to work LinkedIn is to use their email or messaging function. So if I look at Mike's profile, you can see that message button there. We're connected, so I can message him. I click on that, and then you see to the right, what it looks like. So then in terms of doing outreach, I find people are more willing to engage with a LinkedIn message than they might be kind of a cold call email. Like, emails can get blocked by spam filters, or people don't want that interaction there. So, but they might interact much more with a LinkedIn message. Like, I find a lot of my networking, I'll start with a message on LinkedIn, and then we'll exchange email addresses and move it to that forum, and then set up a meeting. But there's a caution here. Like, I don't know that you want to overuse it. Here's a marketing influencer that I enjoy following and getting his newsletter. And like I said, LinkedIn's a noisy place, and you're getting to be more and more people are driving marketing and sales outreach initiatives through LinkedIn. It's become a corporate strategy and tactic being done on behalf of people. And so that, that can be perceived in a negative fashion. So I'd say if you're going to message someone, be choiceful, be deliberate about it rather than it being part of a broad campaign. All right. And then let's talk about number of connections. So, I got a little over 1,400 connections associated with my LinkedIn profile. Your personal connections are good. They're the people that see and interact with your content and are potential customers, clients, colleagues. I'll compare that with my business page. And then by contrast, I got 55 followers there. So you might say, all right, well, I really suck at promoting my business, or people aren't interested in it. And that may be the case, but I do want to point to another example. Richard Branson, who has over 19 million followers. But if you look at Virgin, then 17,000. So I would suggest the ratio is similar. So it's another way of saying, if you're looking at this from a marketing perspective, and what I've said a couple times, people want to interact with the individual and not the corporate entity. So that is what's really important as you're thinking about your LinkedIn activity, or if you're a marketing resource and you're thinking about how to get your sales group to do more, then you can certainly help them create the content, but you have to get them to tailor it, curate it, and vouch for it. Just don't post this because marketing says I have to post it. Then that's not going to have very good impact. So, and then I talked a little bit earlier about premium platforms. You can go LinkedIn Premium. For a time I had LinkedIn Navigator, and then I opted back in for the 1 month free trial so I can have this to illustrate some points. This is my personal experience. I didn't find the paid or premium versions of LinkedIn much better. You do get to see a little bit more information around an individual. If you go towards the bottom of the page, it's interesting to see if you want to connect with someone, then they talk about connections you have in common, but I can find that on the regular LinkedIn profile anyways. And then probably the one big advantage is that you can message someone without being connected to them. But as I kind of highlighted before, a lot of that's unwelcome. So you have to be careful. I guess after trying Navigator for 2 years, then I wanted to try a year without it, just going back to the entry level unpaid version of LinkedIn. And I did not find my effectiveness diminished at all. So that's my personal experience. So that's a caution there. If you're thinking about paying more, then do a trial and then measure the impact of that. Something else to consider would be, creating content. I like Canva. I liked it enough that I went from the free edition to a paid version, to create, graphics like this. And, I found it very easy to work with, and you could be your own sort of marketing communications group. And then the other thing I liked about it was, you'll see down here something called Content Planner. So if you go there, then you can plan in advance your social media activity. So for me, I've done a lot with LinkedIn, both my personal account, my corporate account, but then I also have a corporate Twitter account. I can also post there. It's my choice. I don't find Instagram or Facebook to be particularly effective for me. Other businesses, quite likely that it is. But, I find I can sit for, 20 minutes, a half hour, and I can access to content I've created before, and I can repost stuff, repurpose it, but in 20 minutes, I can plan out a week's worth of social media activity. So it's very, I find it very effective to ensuring you have a regular cadence and you're not forgetting to participate on LinkedIn, because you can plan that in advance. And there's a lot of other platforms out there. There was one I tried called Later, but there are these different scheduling platforms or tools where you can go and plan out all your social media posts well in advance. And then kind of one of the final posts, a watch out. As I referenced a couple times, I find there's more and more companies, and I get the offers, like I can pay them, give them my LinkedIn credentials, and they will go through my connections. They will go through connections that look like them, and they will do outreach, sending out connection requests, sending out appointment requests, so they're trying to do lead generation and appointment setting that way. I've been a subject of that kind of outreach, and then I can find that it's pretty transparent. And for me, I don't like that. If I'm going to be active on LinkedIn, I would rather it be myself and making an effort to do that. And then with these AI initiatives, I also find that I think a lot of their clients don't really follow up on what they're doing. I can think of one example where I kind of figured it was part of an AI campaign, but the connection looked interesting. So I accepted their connection request. I sent them a message back saying, I want to learn more about their business. All right, you wanted to connect with me. Let's set up a meeting. Let's figure out. And no reply. And I thought, well, what's the point in doing this if you're not going to follow up on it? And then I had a meeting last week with a company that set up a meeting with me, and they wanted to promote their service, but then they never did follow up on any of the things they said they were going to follow up on, or any of my follow-up requests. So it just, maybe it works, but then you have to make sure that it's not wasted effort. If leads are being generated, if there is activity being generated, then you need yourself or your organization to be sure to follow up on it. And also, all these things are workarounds. The conversation I had last week, I said, doesn't LinkedIn frown on this behavior and try to block it? And they said, yeah, well, that's why we try to do this, we try to do that, so LinkedIn doesn't catch us. So there's enough about it to me that seems unseemly that I'm not an advocate for it. And it's funny, I've also seen people post on LinkedIn that they've been shut down by the LinkedIn police by using one of these companies, and it took a while and their accounts reactivated. So we'll see how this evolves. Just from what I've seen, it's not for me. So in closing, your LinkedIn activity, keep it professional. Like, think of your LinkedIn profile as your corporate and business brand. Your profile is your business card. You do want prospective customers to be able to reach you. It's not a big secret that you're on LinkedIn. Think of LinkedIn to be like a community. To get, you have to participate, or to get, you have to give, right? Prospects, you want to warm them up and cultivate them. Don't just pounce upon them. And then I talked about cadence or consistent activity. That's what stands out. And then back to being a community, you can support each other by liking posts, whether it's work colleagues, whether it is customers or other people in your community. So that's that. That's what I had. I think we got some few minutes. We can open this up to questions. I know, Tanya, if you want to moderate that.
Absolutely. If anybody has any questions, please either raise your hand, or put your question in the chat. I have a question for you, actually. I've seen in LinkedIn, they oftentimes offer various training programs for the LinkedIn community. Have you ever participated in any of those?
Some, and I know some people, and I'm not sure if that's more a paid edition that they do more of that. I have also at one time participated in an online sales meeting. LinkedIn had, they're promoting their one selling concept. So I think there's good training, good content, but keep in mind, LinkedIn is also a profit-oriented organization, right? That they're trying to sell their sales platform. They're trying to sell content platforms, creating content that your sales organization can access and push out through their connections. So some is good, but some of it's self-serving. It tends to push back towards LinkedIn's own content. For people in sales, there's also I get it as a daily kind of update that there are sort of blogs or information that gets pushed out. So I like there's sort of a business to business sales, very oriented towards software sales or software as a service, but there are useful insights, and then they'll also push out studies around the state of sales, emerging trends, and various things like that. So yeah, I'd say that there's some really good stuff there. You kind of have to pick through it to figure out what's a benefit to you.
Sure. Okay. So now when you talk about your posts and the language that you use in your posts, and I guess what I'm trying to get at is SEO. Does the language that you utilize in your posts reach out to bigger communities aside from LinkedIn?
Yeah, possibly. I haven't really thought of it in that terms. I've worried more about communities within LinkedIn, and that's where the hashtags are a useful bridge to reach and access more people that way. So, to me, it's the activity. It's more around not manipulating or taking advantage of the LinkedIn algorithm, right? The more people that see your content and interact with it, then the more it happens to stay in the newsfeed. I'm sure people have had the experience or sense where, wow, this is like the 5th day this week I've seen so-and-so's post, but Facebook kind of works out that way, right? Like the more people interact with it, then the more it tends to stay up towards the top of news feeds.
Okay. Marvin, you have a question.
Well, I just wanted to thank Tom. This was an excellent amount of time spent with you. I thought I was doing a lot of things pretty well on LinkedIn, but you did point out a few things that I looked at and go, yeah, I got to start trying a few more of these. So really appreciate it. And the experience that I've had, because I feel I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I've noticed that, some things you post, like all of a sudden, wow, there's like 1,000 or 2,000 views and a lot of comments. And then other things you think you're going to do really well, you get 15 or 20. Sometimes it's really, really a crapshoot, but you got to keep at it. And I really appreciate this little chat, Tom, and anybody out there, really LinkedIn is a powerful tool. And just one quick story. I remember a number of years ago, I was looking for a sales rep for Quebec, and I posted something on LinkedIn. I connected with somebody in BC I had never connected with before, gave me a lead, and it ended up being somebody that I hired. So you just never know the power of what you're doing. And the more you put out there, it's great. It's an awesome tool.
That's excellent.
Well, great. Thanks, Marvin. Yeah, I've had that experience too, where you're posting something, you think, oh, this is going to be a good one. I can't wait to see how many people react to this. And it's just like, what? Nothing? Come on. And then, I mentioned videos. Something else you can do is, if you can, is to post your own writings and content. So I do that with a blog section on my website, but I've also tried, you can post articles through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people to try that. I remember how nervous I was the first time I put something out there, and I said, "Oh, I hope the trolls don't slaughter me." And then there wasn't a whole lot of reaction, positive or negative. I went, "Oh, I don't know if that's worse. I'd maybe be better if I provoke some strong emotions."
Kevin, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Hey, Tom, thanks for doing this. You brought up some great ideas and whatnot. I do have one question. I noticed that LinkedIn has something called Creator, and you were talking about, I think, Canva. Have you had any experience with Creator? And is it is it a new tool to look into, or just do what you're doing and not worry about?
I have recently seen that turn up, and I haven't explored it. It probably showed up on one of my slides. I have Creator in an off position. So I think that's how a lot of these platforms work. They recognize auxiliary, subsidiary, sort of like if people are using something a lot, then either they buy the company or they replicate that activity, right? Like I'm shocked LinkedIn doesn't have a scheduling feature. I'm sure it will be there soon because people are paying to outsource that function. And then, like I said, LinkedIn's a money-making machine. Why have people outsource something that they could commercialize themselves?
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because I just noticed that in Facebook right now that they've got that option so that you can schedule posts in advance. And so, yeah, it would be very helpful.
Yeah, and Twitter's had that functionality for years, right? You can schedule posts or tweets when they're going to appear. So,
Tom, you had a question?
Yeah. I mean, Tom, thanks for the presentation. Certainly eye-opening and very practical from my perspective. And I definitely underutilize LinkedIn as an interactive tool. You know, we're a company that we're beginning to introduce a new surface disinfectant product, and my question for you is that sometimes we see on LinkedIn products pages, so pages that are dedicated to a product. Is there any usefulness in that? Especially, given the fact that you were talking about this is a networking tool, so does a products page really fit into that philosophy of and usefulness as a networking tool?
So this is my perspective. I think it's useful to have, that's the tools behind what it is you're promoting. But, to me, a suggestion, if you're launching something, then have people doing a series of short videos. That's I don't know if you're fishing, that's the lure you're choosing and putting out there, right? And then once you have someone interested and engaged, then you support up with the product specs or the details or the important information behind it. So I think it's just, I don't know, I think about my morning coffee and I start scrolling through the news feed and on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of stuff that to me is remarkably uninteresting, and I just scroll past. But then, generally what captures my eye, and I said, "Oh, that's neat. There's so and so. I haven't seen him for a while. What a nice picture." Or people are celebrating accomplishments and things like that. Like I just from my own experience, the more personal and authentic the posts are, then the more people will pause and look at it. It's LinkedIn's like a competition, right? Like there's so much information being posted. What can you do to get someone to stop for a moment and look at what you're posting? So,
thanks. Maybe just one comment on something that you had mentioned in the presentation. I do have a paid subscription, not Navigator, but sort of a lower level in Sales Navigator. The only usefulness to me is to have unlimited searches, because I know LinkedIn will block you if you do too many searches at some point. If you do, so that's just a comment. I'm not sure value for money. I'm still evaluating it myself. Whether it's useful or not to have a premium subscription or not. But I know that if you do too many searches, LinkedIn will block you.
Yeah, I know. I forget. Navigator, I think, is about 1,200 Canadian a year. It's probably better if you buy an enterprise package and have multiple users. Like, it really didn't seem to favor the entrepreneur or small companies. So,
Thank you very much.
yeah.
Anybody else have any more questions? Well, Tom, on that note, I thank you so much for your time today and all your information that you shared. I think that it's actually made me look at my own LinkedIn stuff a little bit more differently. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy day. And I hope you can all join us again in April for the next Coffee Talk Forum. Thank you.
Everyone have a great day. It's nice spending the time with you.